Ladies and gentlemen, Cuomo's officially done in New York. CNN, Biden says Cuomo should resign if investigation confirms allegations. ABC, Cuomo should resign if allegations confirmed. Biden exclusive ABC News interview. Another ABC News article, Biden talks Cuomo, Putin. Isn't it interesting, by the way, that every political adversary of Democrats, or every story that is detrimental to the Democrats, is beneficial to Putin? Ever wonder how that dynamic works? Maybe they're just utilizing Russia and deep-seated sentiments against that country, like, like narcissists, like despots and authoritarians, like demagogues, blaming another country for their failures or their controversies. So, in addition to the DNC railroading Bernie Sanders and Russia informing us of that, we now have the story of Biden's son and his emails showing obvious quid pro quo schemes, like blatant pay-to-play schemes. Oh, thank you for brokering the deal to help us meet your father. 10% for the big man. How can you use your influence on behalf of the company that you're the board of directors of? That's what Putin wants you to know. Anyway, political Biden, if allegations confirmed, Cuomo should resign and could face prosecution. NBC News, Biden says Cuomo should resign and could face prosecution. Daily News, Biden, Cuomo must resign if probe confirms claims. CNBC, Biden says Cuomo should resign if probe confirms claims against New York governor. Wall Street Journal, Biden says Governor Andrew Cuomo should resign if allegations confirmed in investigation. Reuters, Biden says Cuomo should resign if misconduct allegations are true. And the underlying theme here is, of course, the allegations that Tara Reade leveled against Biden are not true, according to Democrats who tell you to believe when any allegation is leveled against Trump or Kavanaugh, but don't believe when it's leveled against them. You're talking about the biggest hypocrites and narcissists and deceptive liars on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling people for a long time, Andrew Cuomo has presided over a catastrophe. God bless the people of New York. God bless the people of New Jersey. New York and New Jersey have been the epicenter of this crisis for the past year. Look at the New York Times statistics. Look at the New York Times statistics. New York leads the country in aggregate lives lost. Okay, so they said that Trump downplayed the pandemic. He didn't downplay anything. He just simply didn't address the issue in the manner that Cuomo and Whitmer and Murphy and Wolf and Newsom did, which means that he almost certainly addressed the issue in a much better manner. Democrats took it so seriously they presided over the worst outcomes. The shutting down economies did not save lives. Look at the numbers. The highest unemployment rates are in states that had the most draconian and heavy-handed responses. Those states also have the worst outcomes. People found other ways, creative ways, to still interact with one another. You can shut down society, but everyone's going to congregate in the same supermarkets, in the same Target and Walmarts and retail chains. So, essential liquor stores, okay? Essential businesses were still open, and all that shutting down economies did was funnel people into small locations. So they couldn't get a beer or a coffee at a coffee shop. God forbid, because the microscopic organisms know exactly when and when not to hurt people. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Tell your friends about this channel. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment and description. And you can see my writing in the Hill, the Huffington Post Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Roanoke Times, other publications, and you can see my debates as well. The microscopic organisms know that you're totally safe in Walmart, in Target, in retail chains, in supermarkets, in liquor stores, but you're definitely not safe at church. You're not safe at church. And you know what? You better listen to the experts say, look, peaceful protests, totally fine. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered. It was outside. It was totally fine. I mean, they made that, like, it's almost as if they just simply made up rules and engaged in superstition. Gee, maybe that's why Democrats and Democratic-run states and blue states, unfortunately, presided over the worst outcomes, with New York, with Cuomo, putting elderly citizens, putting infected people in elderly care facilities and facilities that helped disabled Americans. I mean, that's despicable. And it's like, I know people are like, Trump is responsible for every life lost. And I'm like, well, did you hear about what Andrew Cuomo is doing? It goes in one ear, out the other. They can't. Don't ever debate anyone who has derangement issues pertaining to Trump. Basically, don't ever debate a liberal Democrat. It never works. It's not a matter of like, I can deal with a rebuttal and back and forth. There's no problem. But they get enraged. The fury, the angst, the frustration, the anger, the rage that they get when you dare prove to them that their allegations are false, they're baseless claims. Trump is responsible. Well, did you see what Andrew Cuomo is doing? He wrote a book on leadership lessons. Now he's being kicked out. And don't think it's because of the allegations. That's not the way the Democratic Party works. They know that he presided over the worst outcomes. Andrew Cuomo presided over the worst outcomes. So did AOC, so did de Blasio, so did Schumer and Gillibrand. The New York Times, they said nothing for the past year because Orange Man, very, very, very bad. We had to get him out. So they propped up Whitmer, they propped up Cuomo and Wolf and Murphy and Newsom and everybody. And all of these Democratic states, one out of 5 lives lost are in either New York and California. And then the rebuttal is, that's the 2 most populous states. Yeah, well, New York has the highest per capita rate in the country. And New Jersey is up there as well. I think it's New York and New Jersey are the 1 and 2 in terms of per capita rates. I think New Jersey might have a higher per capita rate. How do Democrats get away with this and Trump is blamed for the entire country? But Democrats presided over the worst outcomes. They have the highest per capita rates also. The top 4 states in the country with the highest per capita rates. It's New York, New Jersey. They fluctuate between 1 and 2. And then there's like 2 other Democratic states that also fluctuates. So how is that all Trump's fault? They have the highest unemployment rates also. How is that Trump's fault? How is it that Biden now is saying that Cuomo should leave when nobody said anything? And this is not about the allegations. 7 people. Then they say, well, 26 against Trump. So what? How is that like when you go to the way Democrats think is that politics is a prison and the inmates are like, oh, well, how many people did you off? 10. Well, that person offed 15. That person is worse. It's like you're pretty, or you're all equally, criminal. Some perhaps even more horrendous than others, but still, it's like they don't have the moral justification or superiority that they claim. And it's interesting, too, because they utilized the pandemic for political purposes. I mean, they didn't really focus. They focused, okay, if there was a conservative who lost his life, or Trump getting, the crisis, oh, you see, maybe this will be what makes him take it seriously. It's like, he was taking it seriously. He just didn't do exactly what you wanted. And by the way, he did pretty much what all the wonderful experts said. And there's only so much you could do on a federal level. Okay? You can't tell states what to do. On March 1st of last year, Andrew Cuomo tweeted out, "The risk remains low for the people of New York. There's no need for undue anxiety." Did he mitigate or not take it seriously? And then they say, well, Trump didn't let everybody know. Nobody cared what Trump said. Anything Trump said, they would do the opposite. So it's like the notion that they were just waiting for a leader, the orange menace, to lead them is absurd. Almost every journalist and almost every Democratic politician and pretty much every journalist did the opposite, promoted the opposite, espoused the exact antithesis, the opposite of whatever Trump said. And it was a visceral reaction to anything he said. So whenever they were saying, "Oh, Trump, he downplayed everything," they weren't. They were impeaching him right before the whole thing hit. And now, with the Lincoln Project completely and utterly disgraced, you now have Andrew Cuomo, and I've been saying this for a long time. I said this man has presided over a catastrophe. He put elderly citizens in harm's way. Not only 15,000 lives within these elderly care facilities. Could you imagine the end of life of thousands of New Yorkers because of Andrew Cuomo? And it's not like, that's not hyperbole. It is hyperbole to say that Trump is the reason for the entire country. He's one man, and he's not a governor. And the president has very little to do with what happens in New York or California, Democratic-run states. You think Democrats want to listen to anything Trump said? They are responsible. Andrew Cuomo is directly responsible. He allowed infected people, actually forced infected people into these elderly care facilities and gave immunity deals to the companies that run these facilities. How on earth is this man not a villain? How on earth is this man not vilified the way he hasn't even experienced 1/10 of the venom that Trump has. And Trump in January started addressing the crisis. And it still wasn't good enough for Democrats. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Cuomo's done. Once Biden gives his 2 cents, it's game over. So it's just a matter of time now. The clock is ticking politically. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. I'll be back later today, of course, with a fantastic live stream this evening.